Good afternoon to everybody. I can see that the students are connected, and I'm super happy to see so many students connected. If Chiara, Maria, you're ready, I think we can start with the Connecting the Dots webinar. As all the students, I guess, already know, I'm Chiara Messina from the Career Service team, and today we have the pleasure to have here with us connected Chiara Tussie and Maria Matloub. Chiara Tussie, she's a former student of Domus Academy. I don't want to disclose anything about you. Going the conversation along the webinar, you will share with us some information about who you are, what are you doing, what have you done. And Maria Matloub, she's one of our former students as well, and she's also a teacher in the Domus Academy and a professional. And she is here today with us to moderate, let's say, the conversation with Chiara. So, Chiara, Maria, I leave the word to you. Guys, I hope you will enjoy the conversation together. And feel free to write in the chat in any moment, whenever you want to, let's say, ask her for questions or comments about what we will share with you today.
Cool. All right, Chiara, shall we get going?
Please, let's start.
Cool. Hi, everyone. First things first, just before we get started, please feel free to engage in the chat. Just, I think because we can't see you, it would be nice just to have some, reactions or anything, because both Chiara and I can see the chat. And if you have questions, either we'll answer them straight away or we will leave them till the end. And hopefully we will have time for extra questions. That's a good chance to ask Chiara anything you have on your mind, because today's topic is super interesting. So let's start with a very quick intro, just to make sure we jump into Chiara after. So Chiara Tussie is a designer whose work is everywhere in the best way possible. So from healthcare to homeware to accessories to toys, to name a few. And we'll be putting the link in the chat as well. She's the co-founder and chief product officer at Breethly, which is a wellness device to support breathwork, and chief design officer at BIOSTRIPS, slick dissolvable supplements. So Chiara started working at 18 years old back in Argentina, and she's worked on over 180 freelance projects and designed more than 1,000 products for some global brands. And this didn't stop her to go back to study and do her master's as well at Domus Academy while freelancing. So there's so much to unpack today, and we will focus on Chiara's journey and how to start freelancing as a designer, how to price your work and actually get paid for it, and how to stay motivated when the field is crowded. We will have time for questions at the end, of course. And really valuable. So can you hear me, Chiara? Hope that intro helped.
Amazing. You did amazing. You were just cutting off for a second, but I think that was good.
Okay. Yeah, I noticed there was something fast web. Okay. So guys, we will start. So we will have this in a few sections if you want. So let's get started. We will start with getting started in freelancing. So Chiara, you're young, right? We're not disclosing age or anything, but you've done over 180 projects worldwide. Okay, can you just take us back? How did you land your first freelance project?
Yeah, sure. So when I decided that I wanted to pursue a freelancing career, I signed up on different platforms, cleaned up my Behance, my LinkedIn, trying to have my online presence as cleaned up as possible. And I remember back then, it took me literally 1 month to land my first project, which was a bit nerve-wracking, right? I was like, when is it gonna happen? Is it gonna happen? I have no clue. And I was very fortunate because my first project was very large, so it lasted a good amount of time and left me with very nice social proof of my work, very nice portfolio items, and also teach me new things. I remember back then I was literally traveling with my grandma and we were in the beach in daytime. I was like enjoying, nighttime I was working from the hotel room because I didn't want to push back, right? When you get the first one, you need to do the best you can. And it was honestly an amazing experience getting started, a bit nerve-wracking, a bit anxious, but also gratificating.
Cool. I have a question. So you were 18, so did you have any experience in design?
Well, actually, I was not 18 when I started the international freelancing. In Argentina, it's very normal that you work throughout your career. So everyone starts working very, very young. For me, at the beginning, I worked in a community. I did some graphic design when I didn't have that much experience for clients in Argentina. During my last year of the career, it was when COVID hit. That's when I fully immersed myself into international freelancing.
Okay, cool. So, what is it that helped you build momentum early on? So you said you cleaned up your beehive and you got like presence online, but
Yeah.
how did you get going after that? Was it like word of mouth or platforms mainly?
I think it's a little bit of everything. Even within platforms, you do need a little bit of word of mouth. For me, I found myself many times working with multiple members of a family, everyone being an entrepreneur. When they find someone that they like and they enjoy working with, they recommend you. Or some agencies that would basically hire external contractors for the design work. So when you land a very good client, that's why it's always very important to show the best version of yourself and show up and be proactive because that will unlock many opportunities for everyone. And of course, portfolio has its role within the trajectory. Is if you get more projects that you're happy and proud of and you want to display them, that will allow you to get more possibilities. At the beginning, every single person who starts is very narrow the amount of things that you can show. And then you get to expand that and also show the things that you are the most proud of. Sometimes we end up as freelancers doing things that we are not that happy with the result. And I personally decided in those occasions not to show it in my portfolio.
Okay, I think
You
something
hear?
happened with my connection. Yes, yes. Okay, it's okay, yesterday and today. All right, so I'll switch to 4G if anything. I just want to ask, I'm not sure the chat works with everybody. So um, if the chat works with us, just let us know in the chat. It might just be amongst ourselves. Okay. All right. So since you started and everything was going well, smooth, from my understanding, have you ever thought of getting a full-time job, or you saw straight away that you want to be a freelancer? How did it go for you?
I did, but I did before getting started with international freelancing. I tried to get a couple full-time roles, and now I look back and thanks God I didn't get them. As soon as I realized how the game was, I understood that was for me. Me personally, I really enjoy being diversified. I do like to have my agenda full of colors, different projects, doing different things. Otherwise, I get bored. And looking back, I would not be able to do a full-time role anywhere.
Okay. I think you're touching on something important here, and I want to highlight this because I had conversations with many students who would be like, I'm currently, let's say, freelancing, or I want to stay in Italy and I'm freelancing, but I want to get a job. And some of the reasons could be to be with other. What would you tell people who are not really sure about
I
freelancing?
just missed what you said. It cut off. Can you repeat the last sentence for me?
Yes,
Yeah, I
Maria,
said
you were freezed for a while.
for a while. Okay,
No, just the last
I'll
sentence.
switch.
That's good.
Yeah. So I'll repeat the whole question just in case so some students are like, let's say, freelancing, but they know that they want to get a job for some reason. One of the reasons could be working with other people. One of the reasons could be working with other designers, not necessarily other professionals. And some would be just for the just to feel safer, let's say. It doesn't matter. What would you tell people who just graduate, let's say, but have this freelancing path? It's going okay. Push it, or some are scared to push for it, and just are like, I want to get a job, you know?
I think it really depends on every person. I don't think there is one unique
No.
universal rule. So I will divide the question into one is for those who feel that they need more of a collaboration kind of work scenario. And that's not my case. Work better alone, never alone because I actually have my teams, but within my space, within my area, I'm better just doing my own thing. Some people do need that collaboration. And for those people, definitely having a studio or something bigger will allow their creativity flow better. So in those cases, 100%. For financial reasons, I do think that when freelancing, you need to be ready to be unstable financially for a while until you get to a point where you are comfortable and you know that the average salary is going to cover your life expenses. It gets anxious, right? Like you don't know how it's going to be every month, so you need to be prepared for that scenario because sometimes it doesn't get that fun. But when you get through that moment, it is really worth it. So it depends on the personality and what they're looking for sure.
Cool. So before we move on to, money pricing, because someone's asking about this, about that as well, I have a question for you. I mean, in the intro, we knew that you worked on multiple projects, and guys, check the link, by the way. Can you tell us about your latest project? Because that's massive. Can you talk about it?
Yeah, 100%. I can say a couple
Okay.
things. So this year I've been working on creating a collection called Bahama de la Vida for Dope Living. If anyone wants to check it, it's dopeliving.com. And we crafted an entire collection of around 50 products that try to reflect the Bahamas flora, the plants, the flowers, the nature. But also it was a huge challenge because it was a mix between a very artistic design, making things just beautiful, but also keeping into consideration sustainability. Because if we're going to honor all those beautiful assets that nature has to give us, then the minimal thing that we can do is to be respectful with nature. So from a design standpoint, it was very creative, but also challenging. And we landed a very beautiful collection. We have furniture, dishware, glassware, everything you can think of. And right now, we just opened the pre-sale, and probably is going to be available internationally by the end of the year.
Cool. So if you want to buy, go.
Sale.
All right, cool. Yeah, I guess there will be more after, but you shared already. That's a good sneak peek. Thank you for that. Does that excite you, this project?
100%. I think it's the first time that I did an entire collection that large on my own, design-wise. The team is amazing, but from design standpoint, and also very artistic. Before this, I tend to be very minimalistic, very clean, and this is the most extravagant collection that I've ever done, and it was so fun. Honestly, it was almost like a hobby, not even a job.
Nice. Okay. So let's go head to the subject where, like, we had one question, and it's a question I know lots of freelancers in general wonder about: money, pricing. Just guys, like, don't ask Chiara how much she charges per hour. Like, this is not a good. Okay,
Yeah.
this changes over time anyway. I'm just saying, it's about the approach. And just one thing to say, you should be comfortable with the price you ask for. Okay, so don't ask about numbers, because, and also it depends. It varies based on countries. Also, there's a minimum, you can go below, whatever. So, okay, so let's get started. How do you, when you got started, and now, so let's take us maybe through the journey. 3 key,
Yeah.
let's say,
I think
milestones. Yeah.
there are
How?
three. Yeah.
Sorry. What did you say? How do you decide what to charge?
I think there are various factors that would change that, like having an extended portfolio, having years of experience in the industry, and having social proof. And the mix of those three things will allow you to start growing your price point. Usually, when you start, or at least when I started very low. To the bare minimum. What it would help me go through that journey and that path that I knew was going to be long until I was happy. It was the bare minimum. And then as I started getting more reviews, more references, more projects in my portfolios, some articles here and there, that allowed me to raise my price point, my hourly rate, or my minimum rate to something that I would be very happy with. So it is a very long journey. My advice to everyone out there is, depending on what is your starting point, evaluate that and make a decision that you're gonna be sure that people are gonna be willing to pay for that. But at the end of the day, don't give your work for free. I remember back then, a client that I absolutely love asked me to do a sample work at the beginning, like free work essentially. And it was probably like half a year or a year into my freelancing career. And I told him, like, with all due respect, I apologize, but I don't do that. If you want to assess my capabilities, you can check my portfolio. Everything is there. Everything else, it would come with a price. And actually, that got me the project in 5 minutes because he felt that I was very confident about myself. So the key point here is, like, be sure of what you're asking for, because if you don't believe it, no one else is going to do that for you.
Yeah, that's very good, because probably you would have worked maybe for a year, and then maybe this project would have never seen the light just because of what you would have projected. I mean, who knows, right?
Exactly. There's so many variables that might change how it end up. So at the end of the day, the equation is to be sure of what you're asking for. And depending on your need or your willingness to negotiate, that might change. I really like to compare this with how the market works, offer, demand. If your agenda is incredibly free, you might be willing to negotiate a bit more to land the project. But if you are super packed and you don't have time, you get the luxury of charging more because you don't have that spare time. It's going to take from your free time, so it needs to be worth it.
Yeah. So how do you deal with clients who say it's too expensive? I mean, do you even entertain these conversations right now? I don't know, but before, how did you do it?
I don't know. I think, like, everything depends on the approach. You could be surprised of the comments that I've received, good and bad. People like questioning the currency of my country, who they have no clue what's going on in my country. So I don't entertain those. I never did. But for those who come from a more honest place, they're trying to just bootstrap a project. Sorry, bootstrap means like paying with their own savings. They don't have that much cash flow. For those, I do have conversations, and at the end of the day, it depends on my current situation. It depends on what they're asking for. If it's small, if it's diluting into a larger milestone, maybe it's just not paying less, but in a longer timeline. It really depends on how the negotiation works and goes and what they're proposing. But I would say everyone knows what they need and how low they're willing to go in a negotiation. So just stand firm on what is your bare minimum. But if you're gonna give a price that is a bit inflated, just make sure there is a chance that they might try to negotiate with you.
There's one thing maybe we need to throw in is sometimes, I mean, sometimes, most of the time, the projects basically start off and, let's say it will take, I'm just giving an example, a week, but it ends up taking 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So it's double. How do you manage that?
So there are two factors. I love that question because it's one of my favorites one. So one factor is timeline and the type of involvement that you're going to have in a project, and a different one would be revisions. Sometimes projects take a lot longer because of the revisions, and what I like to do is have a template with my proposal with some disclaimers. Each milestone has, when I work for a fixed rate, each milestone has a different amount of revisions included. If they want to have more revisions, they need to pay extra. So that puts the client in a situation that they are more mindful of delivering all the feedback at once instead of in little pieces, because otherwise you end up doing so many iterations. Just exporting a file might end up taking 30, 40 minutes of the entire milestone because they asked that 10 times. So I try to be very conscious about what I allow within my price. If they want to have more, they're allowed to pay more. If from the beginning I realize that the project is going to be very on and off, it's not going to be something that we can clearly say beginning and long collaboration, or it's a client that I know that requires many, many iterations, I just go by their hour. That just makes their life and my life easier. We don't need to have those discussions, and it is within the agreement. So it really depends on the client, and it really depends on your original proposal. I definitely encourage everyone who's starting a freelancing career to put their limits and make sure that those are told beforehand and not afterwards, because if you do it afterwards, it's a very messy, sticky conversation that no one really wants to have.
And just to add here, the clients who will tell you, yeah, we'll discuss this later, just be like, don't accept, right? Just
Yeah,
make
I
sure.
always say that contracts are there for a reason. Everyone does everyone from good faith, but at the end of the day, that's why contracts are there. So we do not need to rely on everyone being nice.
Yeah, so the contract and also be clear throughout the communication with, because I mean, people would see different types of clients. At the end of the day, with lots of experience, you will start putting them in buckets, but you can't control this, right?
Not at all.
So,
No.
and I want to throw one here. We're talking here about, product design, but whatever you're saying here works for any project in design, because even if you're doing, UI, UX, whatever you're doing, interior design, you will come across those things. Don't think that, it's only product design.
Of course. Yeah,
So,
everyone who's working as a contractor is going to face these challenges. Bigger, smaller, more often, less often, but at the end of the day, it's something that everyone goes through.
yeah. So that's make sure you save all that and start working on your contracts. It's not that because you're designers that, no, I don't deal with contracts. You will have to probably draft your own contracts as well, right? So, you know what? We have a few questions in the Q&A. It might be about that. So I'm going to take the ones that are linked to that right now and keep the others for after. So Michaela is saying, Chiara seems very experienced in project management. What tip does she have to keeping everything organized and a team going?
My calendar is full of colors to begin with. I put everything in my Google Calendar. Like, we're gonna have coffee, it goes there. Like, the chances for me not to put it there, they're zero. But also just trying to be very mindful about my time available, and I'd rather say no, or I cannot go as fast or as quick as you would like, than just take more than I can chew and then be delayed or not be efficient because of lack of time. So I try to be very conscious about my organization skills. And yeah, and now my new thing is I have a work email and a personal email that has changed my life. I'm so happy. I've never been so happy before.
That's cool. We have another one from Isabella. Have you had projects that are pretty low paid in the beginning, but with the perspective of becoming something better? Until what point should we wait for this better moment?
I think it's a tricky question, and there is no straight answer. Usually, there's going to be a factor of gut feeling. If you feel like it's going to be more bluff, or if it's more established client or established company. But I try not to take promises for a better future because I'm not sure how that's going to go. So unless I'm incredibly inspired by the project and I want to be part of it, I would probably not buy into a better future. At least not as a freelancer. There are some other ways that you can do it that is being part of a company, but not when you're getting paid by the hour or by a fixed rate.
Yeah, if I may jump into that one, just to share, for sure you had this story also, but when you first get started, you will get people who will tell you do this, and lots of people will see it, basically work for free. I had that.
Really that much, but I did got a lot of if you do this one right, I'm gonna give you 50 more. I'm not going to charge less because you're going to give me 50 more. It's going to be this by
Sure.
50. So
Yeah.
you can choose.
That's just bluff. So yeah. So all right. So let's continue. You know, this is kind of related somehow to the question of Isabella, actually. How do you secure work for equity? And maybe you can explain what's the work for equity, which is another avenue often overlooked in the space.
Yeah, I think I'm not going to talk by everyone, but at least in my education, I received a lot of creative education, but not as much financial education. So I had to do a lot of digging, a lot of research on my own to understand what are the possibilities. I think equity is one of those venues. I would also like to talk about royalties if that's the case. So understanding that immediate cash is not the only way to compensate a work or a job or a project that you're going to be part of. For example, for those who are trying to work in the Italian, the European space, they're probably going to notice that if you work with established company, they offer you royalties, not money up front. So basically, the way that works is you do the project for free, which is not really free, and when they're selling the products, then or whatever it is, then you get a percentage of those sales. And that's a very personal thing to assess in terms of exposure, in terms of how large the collection is going to be, or what is going to be the volume, because it's not the same if it's something very niche that they're going to produce 100 or 10,000. So it's something that you need to assess beforehand, but it's something that really happens in the European market, and it's something super valid. And the good thing about those agreements is that it's kind of forever. So if it performs better in the shelf, you're gonna get more cash. So it really depends on the quality of the work and the reception of the market. Now for equity, the difference between equity and royalty in terms of when to apply something like that, I would say that royalties make sense when you have a clear beginning and end of a collaboration. But equity usually works when you start a role in a company, even if it's fractional or as an advisor. And the way it works is you don't get compensated with cash, but you get a stake on the company, a little piece of that company. And that usually takes a couple of years to vest, depending on the company, it might be different agreements, but it requires a long involvement from you. Sometimes it's no cash, sometimes it's a reduction of the cash. It really depends on the agreement that you land. My advice on that space would be many people invest in companies with cash. They buy shares with putting money on the table. In this type of agreements, in this case, you are putting time, you're not putting cash. But time is money. So if you're gonna do that, it needs to be something that you're really inspired by and you know that you want to be part of that for the long run. Otherwise, you're gonna end up feeling like you're not being compensated because equity in a company that is supposed to be sold can take a lot of years to cash out. So you need to be sure it's something that you want to be there and see how it grows. Otherwise, it might not be the best agreement for everyone.
Yeah, and that one happens in mostly startup settings. But
Yeah.
you should, like, if you guys are gonna go through that, because you're doing that as well, right? So maybe that's what
Yeah. It's a very typical agreement for also for advisors. Maybe it's not just in a startup, it could be more of established company or whatever. But if you're gonna be putting, I don't know, there's standard agreements for advisors. You work 1, 2 hours a week, it's not that much, and then you get a little bit of a company. And then eventually one day you might cash it out. But also when you're investing your time, it's like any other investment, you have risks. It cannot happen. Sometimes happens that it doesn't go through. So you need to be ready to accept that possibility.
So we have a question from Elena. Hi, Elena. When starting a new job, can you, like, a new job, or you mean a new project or a new assignment? I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can.
Yeah, when starting a new job, what is a red flag for you from the client? A thing that makes you not want to work with them. Has this happened to you, and how did you react to it?
Well, people people are people, right? At the end of the day, when you're dealing with people, things can happen. And for me, I do try to have an introductory call and see if we click and if I want to work with that person. Usually with at least a 15 minutes call, you can tell if that's your vibe. But you can still be surprised. One time I had this lady sending me like emails every single day for a month before having a contract in place, sharing all sorts of details about her life. I had to block her. What am I going to do? We're not even working together. So working with people has those risks. I would say as a red flag, it depends on your methods, what you consider something that you are not willing to take on. But if, for example, for me would be people who are trying to negotiate and diminish my work. So if I just for a second perceive that that person is going to diminish all of the effort that I'm going to put like onto their project, I'm gone. Like I'm out. I'm not going to do that. That's my red flag. But every person has theirs. My advice is just take a call, see the person at least 15 minutes, see if that works for you, and move on.
And worst case, you can always end it. So
Yes, but ending a contract sometimes is very tricky. Not that easy. So if you realize that that's not the person that you even want to have the contract with, just take it out of the way.
yeah, and maybe another part for people is you can start with maybe an assessment that will take X amount of time, so you get to build a relationship, and then
Yeah,
you
yeah,
move on to the next,
100%.
something like that. I mean, I think every person will have to find their own system, right? What works for them. So you mentioned sales. What's your like sales process like in general? Like also, do people just come to you now, or you're still reaching out?
Nowadays, I'm not taking that many new projects because I have two fractional roles, so my availability became is a lot more used than before. Lately, yes, people came to me, but at the beginning, it was sleepless nights trying to find my next project. How anxious you get when you don't get a project for 2, 3 weeks and you don't know what's going to happen because you're betting that your income comes from here. So just I would say for those who need to send a lot of proposal, create a template. Make sure that you have a template and just adjust. That will save you a lot of time.
Yeah. Let's take this question quickly before we move on to the fractional part, because we touched on it in the previous question. How do you say no to a client? That's a big question. So yeah.
Yeah, depending on how the conversation went, but I like two ways would be one is I just realized I got new requests from long-term clients and I don't have the bandwidth to add this on right now, so we can talk in the future. So that's a very polite way of saying I'm not going to take this right now. Another option is if it's because you really don't have time, but you actually like the client, maybe you refer to a friend, realize that and it's because if it's because you don't have the skill set to support their project, be honest. Don't take on something that you don't think you're gonna excel at because that will end you in a bad situation. One time I had a conversation and they were looking for a mechanical engineer, and even though my career has a background in like a little bit of industrial engineering, at the end of the day, I'm not an engineer. So I told them, I'm so sorry, thank you so much for reaching out, but I'm not gonna be able to support what you're looking for. Just be honest, or I don't know, just make up an excuse.
Either or, yeah. Cool. So you alluded to your fractional roles, right?
Yeah.
So for designers listening here, what does a fractional CPO or Chief Product Officer actually do? But also because you also have the role now of CDO, so Chief Design Officer. Can you explain what's fractional, what's CPO, what's CDO?
Yeah, I would split those questions. So fractional versus freelancer. And I'm not really sure if this is the official definition, and at least it's mine. For me, freelancer is when you start something and you end something. You have a clear timeline for a collaboration. It can extend, sure, but it has a beginning and an end, a collaboration with a company, a project, a brand, whatever it is. Now, fractional is when you have an established role in a company, but it's just not full time. It could be 1 day a week, it could be 20 hours, it could be like the famous part time, that's being fractional. I would not put into the fractional bucket being an advisor because that's its own thing. It's very little time, but usually a fractional can be different amounts of hours or involvement depending on the need of the company and the agreement that they have. So it really varies how much it is, but at the end of the day, it's ongoing and it does not have a clear end. It's as long as it lasts. Now, a chief product officer. Oh, you're frozen. Am I frozen? Can you hear me?
No, I heard. No, I heard it's
Okay.
as long as it lasts. Yeah.
So being a chief product officer also changes depending on the company. At the end of the day, whatever product is what that person is going to be in charge of. If we're talking about a digital company that has an app, the digital product is a product. If we're talking about a furniture, the furniture pieces are going to be the product. It could really change depending on each company. Even in fashion, it's still product. But it's not what we are taught to be product design, we do the product design school or master or whatever it is. But the difference between just like doing a design as a freelancer or being in charge of the product is that design is within the product roadmap. The product roadmap starts with the concept, with the idea, and it moves on to the design, then production, then launch, then market acceptance of it, then iterations based on customer feedback. So it's a long run, it's a long roadmap for the product, whatever that product is. And now a chief design officer is more in charge of the design aspect of it. That also has an ongoing thing and also has customer feedback, and you need to reiterate the product, and it might change what you're designing depending on the company or the studio or whatever it is. Many studios in Milan maybe don't have that role. They have like creative director, which it would be kind of like the same thing. It's just not considered part of the C-suite kind of role that is the top management of a company. In a startup, though, there are less people, so it's not quite the same as a large corporation.
Yeah, and the role of fraction obviously is not going to happen as soon as you just graduate and so on. So you need to have experience. You
Yeah,
need
a
to be able to
background,
manage.
something to back it up.
But it's a good thing to know because also the whole fractional thing is a bit trendy at the moment. So it's not only in design, but you have lots of chief technology officer like the CTO. So because many companies don't need someone full time or so on, right? So
Especially at the beginning, especially that's why fractional is so typical in startups. Because maybe the startup does not have the need of a full-time role and you need to compensate, right? So
I think it's lots of information for everyone. So guys, keep the questions coming. We're gonna move on. Another one, building reputation and relationships. So what's helped you build long-term relationships with brands?
I think I would divide that in two. On one side is the professional responsibility, showing up, being proactive, being yourself, standing up for your ideas, just speaking up essentially. That's key in order to gain like that kind of validation from your workmates or bosses. But also, I guess it's more in my case, I tend to go very personal very quick. I love to understand how people work and how they think. So I end up doing a lot of personal questions and I end up having very close friends with many clients or with many of my workmates and business partners. It's just the way I go about it. So I build long-term relationships. And honestly, I don't even do it on purpose. I just love to understand human beings.
Oh, and I mean, you mentioned something very important. It's responsibility and trust. Now you build that to a point where people trust you, right? And
Yeah.
that's why you're able to get these other roles as well.
Yeah, that also like that trust enables you to have your own voice and your own say in every matter. I tend to say no a lot more than I say yes. When you can back it up, that gains you a lot of trust because something that I have literally my signature phrase is like, you're the client, you get to decide, but at the end of the day, I highly recommend you against it because A, B, C, and D. I'm not going to be able to stop them to do whatever they want to do, but if I think it's a bad idea, I'm not just going to play with it because that's also my name. what is on stake. If I'm gonna have my name attached to that, I need to be proud of what I'm doing. So I tend to say no a lot more than I actually say yes.
Yeah, that's important, because when you're first starting, sometimes you're nervous, you're shy. It depends on every person, right? It depends on the
Yeah.
whole background story. Not gonna get into that, but sometimes, especially for designers, in big companies, even more, so design is not always taken seriously, right? Sometimes people don't get it. So how do you manage those people to get across your point and your recommendation? Because you know, as you said, you're backing it up, and they're just no without backing it up, just based on assumptions. Do you have a story maybe to share with the
I do actually. I was talking about something. I'm not going to talk about the brand, but
Mm,
we were talking about silicone products. And the client mentioned that they wanted to print something on the silicone. But the silicone is a very flexible material. And with the friction, it would wear out so quick and it will not be a high quality product. So I suggested how to do something similar to what they wanted to do in a way that it will last. And I basically grabbed another product that I did from my shelf and I showed how I would do it. I gave examples and I explained the why. It's not that I was trying to be like, no, no, I don't want to do that. It's like there's another way you can get it done in a way that it's gonna last and it's gonna work better. It's just backing that whatever. It's not saying no because of no. It's just saying no because like that's not good for your business. And my job as a professional with experience is to tell you this is not gonna go well. That's it.
yeah, that's cool. So the point is not to be afraid to back your thoughts, really, because that's why they pay you for, right?
100%. They're relying on your
Mhm.
expertise. You
Yeah.
better speak up. Otherwise, why did you do all of those years of study and hard work? Like the payoff is also being able to say, like, you're wrong.
Hmm. So maybe we talk a bit about Domus. So when did you go to Domus? Maybe when was it?
That's a very good question. I feel 2 years ago. I mean, I've been here for 3 years, so probably 2 years ago.
Two
Yeah,
years ago?
2 years
Okay.
ish.
Oh, so just after COVID, basically,
Yeah, no, a bit
sort of.
after, like a year after.
A year after. Okay, cool. So, so the question is, you already had success, right? You were working with lots of brands, doing lots of products, whatever. Why did you go back to school?
Um, Usually the ideas that I have get stuck on me. I'm very, very difficult at pivoting when life changes. And my idea of coming to Domus was way before being comfortable in my freelancing role. It was way
Okay.
before. I was still in school. I actually, one time I did a contest and then I got in contact with someone and they shared, and I knew I couldn't do it until I finished school. So it took me a couple of years to get there, but I knew I wanted to do it and I knew I wanted to come to Milan because as a designer, if you're interested in author design and having your name out there, there is no better place, right? I remember when I did my Domus application, I did an entire video saying that I was going to be the next Philip Stark, and I was so sure that was going to be my career path. Um, so I had that idea before being comfortable with the freelancing role, and actually left me in a better situation because that allowed to pay my own tuition and come here and be able to live and afford my life while doing jobs. I know it's not the case of most people, and it's very typical in Europe that you do your entire career, university, you then do a master, and then you work. But for me, was the normal thing to do was work throughout things. So it just made sense, and it gave me a lot of things that I would not have gotten in my home country in Argentina is the exposure to different cultures, nationalities, and ideas. And I'm very grateful because I got to meet people from all over the world that maybe in any other way I would not have had the chance.
So is that your key takeaway from your experience, or is there anything else this whole international thing?
I think there are two things. One are my group of friends. I love them to death. Like I'm very happy from both from my university in Argentina and from my master degree here. I have the best friends and colleagues that you can think of, and people that I can recommend with my eyes closed, and I know everything's gonna be amazing. So that's something that makes me really proud of my friends. And then the collection, we did a collection for Eckendorf Milano called Tipsy, and that was an amazing opportunity because it put us on the map, basically.
Can I show this project while you're talking about it? Maybe
Yeah,
you
of
tell
course.
us, yeah, maybe tell us about the project and how did it end up at Rinascente?
Okay. Yeah, so for those who are currently in Domus, they know that usually workshops work in collaboration with companies and brands most of the time. And in this case, Eckendorf Milano came to Domus to do a workshop, and they told us that one project would be the winner and would go to production. So it was a lot about actually cultural research and the act of drinking from different cultures. And we designed an entire collection that was supposed to be used throughout the dinner. So for water, for wine, for aperitif, like for everything. And it went really well. They were very happy with it and they launched it to the market. So it was insane to see that in Salone del Mobile, Milano Home, Maison Objet in Paris. It was incredible to see our name out there. Actually, if you Google me right now, most of the articles are because of this collection.
Okay. So was the plan for them to actually put it out there, or they just loved it so much that they changed
I
the
think they
plan?
had the plan to put one project from
Okay.
all of the things, and they
Yeah.
chose ours. I don't know what would have happened if they didn't like any of them, but they were really happy with it, and it's insane. Like nowadays, I can invite my friends home and we drink with our carafe and our glasses, and it's so fancy and so nice. It's insane to see yourself out there like that.
So do you think you will collaborate with them again?
I really hope so. I love them. They have an amazing team. The execution was insanely amazing. I treasure the catalog with our stuff there. So I really hope we get to collaborate again because I loved working with them.
Cool. No, that's really really cool. It's the first time I see a Domus project that actually is on the market, or at least know about it, right? Like direct from school. So that's cool.
Yeah, I
So
imagine like you're walking in the Duomo, you enter the Rinascente and we're there. It's like, what am I doing here? Like I have no clue how I got here, but thank you.
selfies, did you do that?
As many pictures as you can get. I have in every single one of the events that we've saw the products. I have videos and pictures, TikToks, like everything you can think of, because it's a great achievement. It's
Yeah,
something
for
that
sure.
we're so proud of.
For sure. For sure. No, and it's a nice project actually. So got me
Thank you.
thirsty. So so what keeps you going and how do you avoid burnout?
What keeps me going? So honestly, kind of like what I said at the beginning, being diversified is something that it's not like I could have, I need to have. I need that diversification in my agenda so I can switch projects. Because also for all of those creative minds, they know that it's not like ideas just rain every single minute. Sometimes you need to pause, take something to the side, and do the next thing so you can recover the creativity for that project. And the only way I find to do that is by being diversified. So that definitely keeps me going and avoiding the burnout. I don't think I do. I don't think I do. I think sometimes I get really burnt out and sometimes I don't. And it's part of the flow. And when I do, I just try to, I don't know, maybe travel, enjoy time with friends, or go on when there is no other opportunity around.
Cool. I know we didn't delve into the design process and so on. So just to tell everyone, we couldn't go through absolutely everything. And I think that was a good art because as designers, we don't get to talk about those things a lot
Sure.
in general. And important, which leads to what's one thing you wish you knew earlier in your career?
I don't think it's something that I didn't know. Someone told this to me, and I think it could be good for me to tell to everyone that is keep going. It's gonna happen. You need to work really, really hard, but you're also allowed to have very big expectations because hard work pays off. It's like it pays off. It might take time, but it's gonna pay off for sure.
Cool. That's nice. And I think we're bang on time to have more questions. I'm really pleased we had lots of questions along the way, but we want more. Otherwise, I can keep asking questions, but I mean, it would be nice to know what you guys want to, explore more of or ask more. In the meantime, so we're waiting for the question, but that's like a bonus question now, just so we don't have that moment. Maybe I'd like to
I have a
know.
comment. Guido Santiago left a comment asking about the collection. I think he meant the one from Bahamas. Is that correct?
Yes,
If that's the
yes.
case, it's not in my portfolio yet, but you can find it in dopeliving.com.
Dopeliving.com. Well, put www.
No, that's all right. But without the comma, with the period. And anything else good.
Dope.living?
No,
Or
dope
dope
living, but you put a comma before com.
Ah, yes, okay. Here, I fixed it. Yes. Okay. That's.
There you go.
I think Celeste actually answered it before. Maybe I'm not sure. So we have a question: is there a field in design Chiara loves to work the most?
A field?
Yeah, maybe product or digital products or whatever.
So I would say that what I could say would be wellness. I enjoy doing things that I enjoy. So, but that can be applied in so many ways, right? Like I work in supplements, I work in breath work, but I also worked in a beautiful collection that is going to make your house prettier. So essentially, it's wellness and like I don't know, stuff that motivate you. And for me, I'm also obsessed with beauty. So everything beauty I also love.
And this is based out. So you work remotely, right?
Yeah, this is a Canadian and American company.
Okay. So how do you manage that? I'm just keeping asking you questions while we wait for
How do you like time zones?
time zone, but also working completely remotely because I guess you have to deal with different people, engineers, researchers, whatever. Yeah.
So I think the challenge of working from your house to different countries is time zones for sure. I really struggle with PST. PST would be like LA, California, because they're like 9 hours from us, and that can get really tricky. But besides that, I think that I love working from home. I have my office here, and I don't need to go to an office and share the space with anyone else. I prefer to be at home, be in my PJs. Like you need to see me on winter. I have 10 PJs and I change every single day, and I don't wear actual clothes for the for the meetings. I am myself, me and myself, and that's it. So I'm more comfortable here. I get to eat better. I can cook every single meal. So for me, being remote has a lot of pros.
Cool. So we have another question from Elena. Was being a designer always your dream? How did you discover this is something you want to do?
Actually, there is a book from my elementary school from when we were like 8 years old that you would put your bio and what you wanted to be when you grew up. And since 8 years old, I wanted to be an industrial designer. I always knew what I wanted to do. So in that sense, I didn't have to make a choice. I always knew what I wanted to do. I learned the technical name, but I was doing stuff myself since a very young age. And then I attended a high school that had orientations. So even within high school, we had industrial design. So the last 3 years of my high school, I already did industrial design. So I started studying this career when I was 15 years old.
That's nice. Nice question. You know what? Maybe because you're so passionate when you talk, so people are wondering, did you want to be a pharmacist before, or something?
But I love attention though. I love talking and expressing myself.
Yeah, but you love what you do and you can tell, right? And I think this is why also clients like working with you, obviously, because they see that you love it, you invest in it.
I think that's a pro and a con at the same time because sometimes I speak too much and I do not have the ability whatsoever of shutting up. I need to speak my mind, and sometimes it's not very ideal for everyone who works around me because I have no shame whatsoever. But I think though it opened a lot of doors for me.
Yeah. Cool. Come on. We have 44 people. I'm not asking for 44 questions, but come on. We just wanted to make sure that you guys contribute, obviously, to the conversation. Do you have a question for yourself?
For myself.
Yeah.
I don't think I do. I didn't think about that. I was not prepared.
No, don't worry. I just came up with that. Do you have a favorite project so far?
It's a really tough question. I don't think I can pick. They're my babies. You're asking for too much. But I do have my top picks is what you can see in my website because every single one of them have something different. I have more product focused, more packaging focused, more business focused. So for me, like those are my top picks for sure. Actually, all of those are products that I have in my house that I use on a daily basis.
Elena, do you have a style in your design that you follow? And if you do, how did you find it?
I think usually I'm very minimalistic, very clean. But this latest collection that I did for Dope Living proved me wrong. So that was full of like decoration and artworks and golden parts. So usually I'm just minimalistic, but I can be also more artistic if it's needed for the project. But I am a huge believer of less is more many times. Not for homeware though, but many times.
Cool. We had 11 questions so far, which is not one more. Here we go. Guido, have you used your culture as part of inspiration for some of your designs?
100%, 100%. I think, well, Tipsy is a collection that was inspired in our cultures, the three of us, the team members. And it was very inspired on our backgrounds, 100%. And I think nonetheless, even when sometimes you are not intentionally trying to translate your background and your culture to a product, you will always do. Because at the end of the day, every single country and every single culture use products differently. There's no universal conventions for everything. So you are non-intentionally putting your experience and your knowledge and your experiences in life in general into the project. And that's what makes every design unique and every designer unique. They're not two people like each one.
Cool. So guys, we're gonna take these other questions, of course, which keep, you're okay to stay, right? A bit longer.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too, so it's fine. Keep getting, I like that this is switching to design, actually, not freelancing and so on, which is fine. I think it's great. So Isabella, what's your vision for your future professional wise?
What is my vision?
For your future profession, I think. Or
I think for my career path, probably.
I think so.
Question. I don't know. I really love the projects that I'm currently working on. So if I could do that for the long run, I'm incredibly happy with that. So, and probably at one point I might do my own entrepreneurial journey on my own. But for now, I am more than happy to keep being part of the project, like BIOSTRIPS and Breethly. I love them to death. So, and then some little things to spice it up throughout the journey.
Cool. And then one, Rowan, how do you stay motivated and maintain discipline when working from home? And how do you approach time management in that setting?
Time management, calendar, always calendar, put everything there by the minute. I tend to overestimate how long it's gonna take. So if I have a 5 minute break, that's because I earned it basically. And in terms of motivation from and discipline when working from home, I am a very disciplined person, like sometimes too much. My husband would say that maybe it's too much. I'm very rigid with the way I think. but just I would say like knowing yourself and understanding what works for you. I work very well in the morning and I can do meetings in the afternoon. But I do need my alone time in the morning to use my brain because if not in the afternoon, it's not that good. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like you. I try
I need the
to.
mornings otherwise.
Yeah. So, but some people work better at night. I mean, it really depends. So, Chiara, what's one piece of advice you would give to your younger self starting out as a designer?
Why? It's a difficult one. Advice for like you're gonna be where you want to be. That's what I would tell myself. But in terms of advice, is just be patient. Don't stress that much. No one cares. No one cares is key, especially when like I used to be that person that if you gave me a microphone, I would cry my eyes off because I could not speak in front of people. Especially now when I would get all that attention, and now I love it. Like no one cares what I have to say, so I can talk, and that's gonna be okay. That would be my advice, actually.
That's cool. Thank you, Chiara. And now, Elena, do you create outside of your project? Do you design for yourself and just, I mean, you design just ideas you have for yourself as well?
I do. I have a ton of Pinterest boards and like I want to do my own bags and I want to do my own dresses and I actually design my wedding dresses. So for me, whatever is for me, I love doing. Now I have some ceramics at home. I don't know, just recreational. The very hard thing though to experience is when your job is your hobby. I don't have hobbies. When I have nothing to do, I check my email because I love my work. So I need to work on getting hobbies and not working as much. Actually, that should be my goal.
Are you planning to stay in Milan?
That's a difficult one. No, I'm not. Yes, this year for sure, a potential the beginning of next year, but we do want to go back to Argentina, especially when trying to build a family. It's very difficult to be away of everyone, most people you love at least, because we have that, we're really lucky to have a big family, lots of friends, and when building a family, that's key.
So, yeah, no, I was asking because you said, the brands, whatever, are here. So you're making the most of it while
But
here.
you would be surprised of the amount of people that hired me just because I live in Milan. They thought I was Italian, like me in Milan. My name is Chiara. They would assume that I was this amazing Italian designer and they would just hire me because I was here. But actually, it's a thing.
Wow, okay. Well, I keep your number. It's fine. Cool. Any other questions, guys? This has been fun, I must say. At least for me, it was fun. The questions were fun. Your answers were fun. I enjoyed that one. So thank you, Celeste, for organizing this, by the way. Anything you would like to add? Well, yeah.
No, I would just to say thanks to Chiara and thanks to Maria to, let's say, for this conversation to propose some question to Chiara and to moderate the conversation. I hope our students enjoyed it. I enjoyed, and I was really happy when Chiara texted me and texted us to reconnect with Domus after I think a couple of years after your graduation, because it was a super pleasure for me, for us to reconnect with you and see what you are doing and how you are growing. And we wish you all the best, of course. And I would say that if no other questions are coming, we can close the webinar. And Chiara, of course, before leaving Milano, come back to Domus to see also the new building and to have a coffee together. And also with you, Maria, I hope to see you soon around in Domus. And girls, I think that's it. So thanks again to everybody for joining, for being here, for your question, guys. and have a nice evening.
Bye-bye.
Ciao, bye.